It's always a highlight of my year to welcome in exchange students. And I am just really delighted that we have two of our exchange students here today to share with us. So we're going to go into panel discussion with Albert Odom and Elaine Bufan. Elaine is from the Foster School of Business in the University of Washington, and Albert is from the Darden School of Business at the University of Virginia. And they both completed their exchange semester at HKUST in the fall of 2025. So just a few months ago. And I hope you'll just enjoy this chance to hear a bit from them, to hear their experiences. So thank you, Albert and Elaine, for joining this. So the first question I want to just get some insight into is, telling us a little bit about why you chose HKUST. And then, when you first arrived in Hong Kong, is there a moment, anything that made you realize that this experience would be something new, something that different from studying in the place that you had studied before? So why HKUST and first impressions of Hong Kong? Albert, could I invite you to go first and then Elaine?
Sure. Thank you so much, Professor Shi. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me. So for me, one of the reasons why I even selected the school I'm currently in, which is the Darden School of Business, UVA, was the exposure to international experience. And one way Darden does that is through the case method, which is the bedrock of the whole academic system here. So with that mindset, I wanted to take it another step forward, and an exchange program was definitely one of the ways that I thought was really great for gaining global experience and being culturally fluent as a business leader. With regards to HKUST and Hong Kong, the reason why I selected Hong Kong in the first place was because of the fact that I've never been to Asia and I wanted an experience that was very different from what I am used to. And so selecting Hong Kong, HKUST was the number one for me because definitely it's one of the best in Asia. It gives you a perspective into the East mindset and then the West mindset. And that was really evident when I came on ground to take my exchange program. One of the unique experiences or the first insights that I got when I arrived. So I arrived in Hong Kong very late in the night, around, I think, 12 a.m. or so, or 1 a.m. I don't remember what time that was, but it was very late. And I lived at Causeway Bay, which is right in the middle of the island. I just liked the ambience. It was very cool. The breeze was really refreshing. And I felt that the city was also very neat, well organized, and very structured. And that gave me a sense of peace because I've lived in several different parts of the world. And just the landscape I experienced on my first experience of Hong Kong was just unique to me and gave me an insight of what was to come next.
Thank you, Albert. Elaine, how about yourself? How did you end up, choosing HKUST and first impressions of Hong Kong?
But yeah, of course. Actually, I knew I wanted to do an exchange. And so out of our program partners, I probably talked to like 10 alumni that did study abroad. And so there was an alumni exchange student from Europe that I reached out to who just spoke highly about HKUST. Like that, and that's really what really sold me. It was his experience that he told me over like a WhatsApp call. And especially about his student experience, like collaborating and working with the first year students who are your full-time students now. So he said like it's not only in the classroom, but they hung out outside. They were really open to exchange students joining their events. So I was like, oh, I knew this was the school for me. And the reason why specifically Hong Kong, I think it's just like the perfect, like as someone who like I'm a native English speaker. I do speak Vietnamese, but like I would want to have like that ease of into Asia where it's like the blend of East and West, right? Given that, yes, there's like the Cantonese Chinese culture, but then there was that influence of the British. And so I wanted the blend of both, and it was an easy segue into that. What made me realize that this is going to be like anything, like something different or what stood out, I would say I'm from Seattle and I have to drive everywhere. And even if I want to go to nature, I have to drive. But what I love about Hong Kong is that you have the city life and then you had nature that's accessible by train bus. And so shout out to Albert. Albert and I were like best friends during our exchange. And we would always go hiking every week during our off days. And so I think I knew like this is gonna be such a special experience because we would just always hike every week. And it was so accessible by train bus. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a really unique thing about Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, just to add to that a little bit. So I had two senior colleagues from Darden who also did their exchange program at HKUST the year prior. And they also said really great things about the school. And that was one thing that really convinced me that this was right for me. And so just living through the experience of the past students who attended HKUST for their MBA was a really great deciding factor for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your experience at HKUST. And can you just share with students a bit about the campus and the academic environment from your point of view?
Yes, sure. So I am here in Darden, and the one thing or the one defining feature about Darden is that it's a bit removed from the bigger UVA community. So you are always in this MBA bubble. And that was a bit different from the experience at HKUST, because at HKUST, the business school itself is immersed in this bigger academic community. So you get to build relationships across different programs and across different levels of the school. For example, I had friends who were in undergrad or in different programs outside of the MBA program. And for me, that was a good experience, getting to build relationships with other students who are not necessarily seated with you in the same class. Another thing with the HKUST MBA experience was the fact that the classroom mix was very diverse. So you got to sit in the same class with part-time MBA students, regular MBA students, and even bi-weekly MBA students who are mostly working professionals. And one thing I realized was that they contributed really great insights to class discussions. The sort of contribution they made could help shape the classroom discussion in a different way from what you would have experienced if you were seated in a class with just your colleagues who are just regular MBA students. Another thing was that the academic program, I don't know if it was by design, every single course I took had a practical component to it, be it the business, transforming business with AI class or macro investment strategy or investment analysis. Every single course had a practical component to it. And we also had speaker sessions whereby you hear from practitioners in the field who come to share their experiences and how the business concepts work in real life. That was, I think, another truly unique feature about the HKUST MBA program. And then it's also fostered some sort of interconnection because every program, every course required you to form teams and work with other students in their team to address a business problem or solve some sort of problem. And through all those experiences, I got to meet new people, build relationships with new people, and I enjoyed that as well. So probably Elaine could also tell us a bit more about what she also experienced.
Yeah, I think for me, like just starting off with the campus, it's a beautiful campus. It's fairly removed, I would say, from Hong Kong Island, but I think that's what makes HKUST. It's like this sea view. It has this like 7-floor library, which I studied out of when I wasn't like on days I was on campus. But what's cool about HKUST is they have another campus on Hong Kong Island to support like the part-time students who work in the city. So then you get like the best of both worlds where like if you take daytime classes, you're on campus, and if you take evening classes, you take classes from the downtown location, which makes it convenient if you live in like Kowloon or Hong Kong Island. But it's also a way to meet the part-time students who work. And so what I loved was that I ended up taking like 7 classes during my exchange because it ended up working out that way. And so I got to meet a lot of full-time students during the day. And then in the evening, I met a lot of part-time students who worked in like various fields. And like for me, coming from the University of Washington in Seattle, everyone comes to our MBA program for tech. So getting that exposure with part-time students I met people who did sales for The Economist magazine, in-house strategy for HSBC, HR partners. Like I can name it all, various fields, various industries, and even met people who from the biweekly program who worked in China when I took classes on the weekend. And so I just love the exposure of students that end up becoming my friends. And that was great. And going into academics, I would say I was very impressed by what the elective courses that were offered. My favorite were a lot of the management classes. So like shout out to Zachary Brown, love him. Professor Nelson, who does negotiations, highly would recommend. And I think I did another class. It was like developing an AI like deep learning with Python, which was a very practicum class. It's with a PhD professor. I'm like forgetting the name, but that was a great class because I got to build an AI product and then launch it onto, launch it onto GitHub and have it work in action. So that was really cool. A harder class, more technical, but great learning experience. And I don't think that classes like that are just unique to HKUST.
Albert, how about you for any specific courses or professors that you remember?
Yeah, definitely. If I have the chance, I think I'll mention all the courses that I took, but one that really stood out for me was Transforming Business with AI, taught by Professor Jane Wan. I was in the same class with Elaine, and actually that's how we met. She came to sit by me on the first day and we just connected and we became lifelong friends. So the reason why I liked that course was because of the fact that almost every school around the world, every MBA business school is trying to integrate AI into their course load. But I think HKUST did a really fantastic job in the sense that this course blends lectures with hands-on projects and lab sessions as well as speaker sessions. So with the lab sessions, every single class has a practical component to it. You practice in class and then after class, you get to do something on your own. So mostly we built machine learning models in the cloud. And I think our last project was on developing an AI agent. And for me, I did something that analyzed my personal spendings and generated reports, intuitive reports for me. And since the business environment we are going to enter into after our MBAs, usually AI first, I think this was a really great introductory course to AI. And I got a lot of value from it because once I came back to that and I continued with it, I knew about AI before going to HKUST and used a lot of AI products, but it changed my mindset about it in terms of not just the success stories, because if you read Wall Street Journal and a lot of mainstream press, you get to know more about the success stories, but you don't hear a lot about the risks and the cautionary tales. And this particular course presented a balanced picture by showing you the success story, at the same time also showing you the cautionary tales. And also, I think the one unique thing is that it also exposed us to different use cases for AI, for example, in customer success management, HR, supply chain management. So we got to get like a complete picture about how AI plays in the real business world. And we had practitioners on the field who came to class to discuss their challenges and their success with regards to using AI in their workplaces. So kudos to Professor Jane Wang. She did an amazing job. And I hope that there'll be an iteration of the course to make it even better next year.
All right. Thanks. It's great to hear how you and Elaine had met in that class as well. Elaine, do you want to just talk a little bit more about, you mentioned Professor Zachariah Brown's course, and that's one I've heard a lot about. What were your impressions of that course?
It was a 4-part weekend course and it was like persuasion and practice. Like, how do you persuade someone like over the long term, the short term, in different scenarios, and like what is the philosophy or the psychology behind it? And you improve in your practice through getting feedback from students anonymously, but like live. So you get their feedback the day of. And so it's really interesting because it's like kind of like a public speaking class, but not really, because the point is like learning how to persuade someone over time, over a short period of time. But you have to actually, because it's a lab, you're doing it right there and then with your team, your group. So learning that skill in the class is like 3 hours. You get to bond with a lot of your classmates, but also get feedback on areas where you can improve in your practice. It was just really a unique class that I didn't expect to take, but I was recommended by the exchange student Chase who took it last year. And I'm so glad I did because I learned so many tips and tools, and then just putting like learning or growing through being uncomfortable, like through practicing a certain scenario that was super beneficial. So yeah, highly recommend it. This is a great class. And it's a collaboration between Zachary Brown and Mark Young, I believe. They were great. I loved the way they taught the class and structured it.
And it's interesting just to reflect on that, right? And these are kind of the skills that I think we all need to be developing. There's the AI technology-based skills, but also with AI, it's, more of the human skills as well are becoming important as well. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about Hong Kong. And people who have not visited Hong Kong, they probably have an impression of it as a gateway between East and West. But how would you describe its role in global business based on your time here and any just thoughts? I know you've had business experiences around the world and with different types of people. What are some of your impressions of how business works in Hong Kong?
Okay, so I think I can go first. I didn't know so much about it coming in, but once I came for my MBA, for my exchange program and interact with a lot of people and also got the chance to experience the city for myself, one thing that became clear was that Hong Kong was a strategic location for global brands. And because of the fact that it's very close to China, from West Kowloon, it's just about 15 minutes by bullet train from Shenzhen. And I think that's a really important information to note. And also the fact that most companies also site in Hong Kong and use that as an opportunity to deploy capital into the rest of Asia. That became clear in my macro investment strategy class. We discussed a lot of that and I saw it in practice. In terms of the blend between East and West in the business environment, I mean, walk through the streets of central Hong Kong and you see all the major brands well represented there, from global consulting companies to global investment banks and luxury brands. They are all fully represented in Hong Kong. One thing I noted because of my background in tax was the fact that Hong Kong doesn't have a consumption tax, whether it's VAT or GST. So what that means is that what you see on the shelf when you go shopping is the same amount that you see when you go for the checkout. And that's very different from the US. You go for shopping and you get a heartbreak when you get to the checkout point. The other thing was just communication language. So I'm sure a lot of people would think that you have to be fluent in Mandarin or Cantonese before you can live in Hong Kong. And I'm here to break that bubble because I speak English, but once I was in Hong Kong, I could live my life normally, even though I did not speak Cantonese, because a lot of people already speak English and it's very easy to relate to them, whether on a personal level or on a business level. And that's just how I saw the blend between the East and West culture and ways of doing things in the business environment.
Thanks, Albert. Elaine, any reflections on your side?
Yeah. So like Hong Kong as a business hub or just
yeah.
I think I will definitely say like how when I think of Hong Kong and my experience there, it's definitely a finance city. But what surprised me was that there's this like decentralized crypto movement, and that really surprised me. So for folks who are into that sector or that industry, it's really cool. And so one of the benefits about being an HKUST student, I ended up going to FinTech Week for free at the conference, and I learned a lot about the different industries, different crypto companies, where Hong Kong's moving. And there was so many people from all over the world there that were industry members, just trying to understand what's going on in these spaces. But not only that, like I said, just through my classroom experience, it's not just only finance. There's all sorts of things from manufacturing, hardware, tech, and the fact that we're like neighboring, or like we, as in like Hong Kong is neighboring to Shenzhen, which manufactures a lot of goods. You learn a lot about that just through your classmates and talking about that. So, they say Singapore is the gateway to Southeast Asia. Hong Kong is definitely the gateway to China, mainland China. So you learn a lot about that. And East and West, I mean, it's so cool. Like you have this modernization of the West, but then you still have I forgot what the Hong Kong cafes are. I totally forgot. But yes, thank you. They're great. Like you just have like kind of like a Cantonese auntie yelling at you as you're trying to get like a Hong Kong milk tea or something. But it like if you go to Kowloon side, it still has that East feel. And then if you go to Hong Kong, it has that West. And if you want to get Western food or you want to get a cocktail, you can just go down Hill Street or Central or etc. I mean, it's really cool in that sense where it just has this blend. And yeah, I would just say like if you go to Hong Kong, really talk to everyone, all the students, people on the streets. Okay, maybe not people on the streets, but like you get connected with other people. And I think the Career Management Center too also does a good job of allowing exchange students go on like career tracks. So I went to the Digital Bank or Development Bank of Singapore, DBS, went to their office, and then I met like a head of AR and partnerships from Snapchat. So the career management center allows student exchange students to meet other professionals in the industry that are part of the alumni hub. So that was super cool too.
All right. Well, let's try to, just looking back on the exchange as a whole, your time at HKUST, your time in Hong Kong, maybe if you traveled around, other places outside of Hong Kong, but how would you say the exchange impacted you, right? Did it change you not just professionally, but personally, any things that you came back to your home with that you didn't have before? Elaine,
Yeah, definitely. So for me, number one was the relationships that I built. I feel like Hong Kong people are very polite, very respectful, and very easy to relate to. And through my exchange program, I built relationships with other exchange students like Elaine and Kevin. We're like a set of three friends, and we did a lot of hikes together. We experienced a lot of the sites in Hong Kong together. For example, we did a 30-kilometer bike ride from central Hong Kong to the new territory, which was a really refreshing experience for me. We also took other outdoor activities together, but that didn't end there. I also built relationships with native Hong Kong students, be it part-time MBAs or regular MBAs or even bi-weekly MBA students. And I am still in touch with them. I still talk to them. We still text. That's a really great opportunity because as a business leader, one thing that defines you is also the breadth of the relationships that you have. That's something I took with me. The other thing was just differences in communication. I have experienced a lot of the Western culture. Communication here is very different from communication in the Asia Pacific region. For example, here they over-index a lot on handshakes, smiles, eye contacts, and stuff like that. But then being in Asia and Hong Kong, I realized that there are nuances, and those are the things that you have to pay more attention to. You can't use the same rule book to communicate with a Hong Kong person just as you would communicate with an American or a European. And that's something that opened my eye.
Great. Thank you. Elaine?
Yeah, I will say coming as an Asian American, like in America, I think of myself Asian, and I realized coming to Hong Kong, I am not Asian. I'm like American. So that was something that I had to shift with, but that's just like a personal thing. And I think for those who are thinking like it's like if you're American but you have like Asian heritage descent, that's like something you might encounter, whether that's good or bad. It's just something that I found surprising for me. But it was fine. I will definitely say through the interactions with my classmates and like local Hong Kongers, the way I think and the way I communicate is definitely following up what Albert says. It's very different. And so I had to learn how to adjust my communication style. Like I tend to be more direct, and I realized that people are not they're direct, but in a different way, if that makes sense. So it's a lot of that handshaking, building rapport type of deal, which is very important if you're trying to do business in Asia, especially in Hong Kong and mainland China. And I think like the one thing that surprised, like the last thing is I knew I wanted to go back to Asia. I think this exchange program definitely solidified it. And so I never told Albert this, but Albert, I'm moving to Vietnam this summer. So this kind of like solidified like, oh, I want to be in Asia. And I was using this as a testing ground to see like, do I want to? Of course, like Vietnam is different from Hong Kong, but it was, can I make the leap here to this part of the world, and does it make sense? Yeah. I mean, again, as I mentioned, Vietnam is definitely different from Hong Kong, but I wanted to come to Hong Kong to test the waters. And so it validated that.
All right. That's exciting, Elaine. And, drop me a line after this if you'd like to get connected with any of our alumni in Vietnam.
Awesome.
Or they'd love to connect with you too. So look, this has been, I think, a great sharing. It's interesting to hear both of your reflections around the communication and, learning about global communication with different parts and, people around the world. And, I think this is something which, as I talk to senior business leaders, I increasingly hear as the skill that they feel is really important. That ability to understand different types of people, to collaborate with them, to understand the cultural nuances. So I'm glad to hear that, that was part of your experience here at HKUST. Let's wrap up. So for someone here watching this video who's considering, should they go for HKUST, for an exchange program, what would you say, Albert and then Elaine?
Just say 3 words, just go Okay, so 4, just go for it.
All right.
And I believe that it will be worth your while. I have experienced it and I have no regrets. If I'm to make the decision, I'm going to do it again. There's so much to be gained from it as a business leader, and culturally also just understanding different cultures and learning how to connect with people from different backgrounds. I think that's really important. And also there's something in Hong Kong for everybody, regardless of whatever you are into, whether you are into outdoor activities, sports, whatever, like there's something for everybody. And I got to enjoy it. I've never said this about any place, but when I was in Hong Kong, I could proudly say that I was happy. I couldn't say that for other places that I have lived in. So that's the one thing, that's the one advice I'll give to somebody considering an exchange program in Hong Kong and in HKUST specifically.
Right. And maybe Albert will have a chance to welcome you back to Hong Kong sometime in the future.
Definitely. Thanks.
Right. Elaine?
Yeah, I would say if you're curious about Asia, and you've never been, it's a great landing pad because it has that blend of East and West. But not only that, if you're curious about the miracle economy about China, how did Hong Kong play a role? Why is Hong Kong a financial hub? How to break into this market? It's also great for that. But I just highly recommend doing exchange in your MBA. And I think HKUST, their global exchange program, just does a great job of integrating exchange students with the full-time, part-time, bi-weekly students, and also creating events to make your exchange just fun and meaningful as possible to get the most out of it. What you put in is what you get out. So if you're more involved, you're going to learn more from your classmates and the program and, just take advantage of the resource. But I would say the highlight of my MBA career was definitely this exchange. And, I even met a best friend out of this, which is Albert. And Albert and I, we still talk to this day. So who would have thought Albert from UVA and me from Seattle, Washington would be meeting in Hong Kong and becoming friends? So yeah. That's my 2 cents. You should do it.
All right. Thank you. Thanks very much for spending your evening here with us, both of you, Elaine and Albert.